evening. Welcome to Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris.
And I'm Sharaad Kuttan.
So we're taking a look at the news of the day and asking you to reconsider what you've heard today. So the biggest news of the day for me really has to be the rumours surrounding a cabinet reshuffle. So Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad has confirmed that during the cabinet meeting yesterday, there was discussion of possible changes in several ministers' portfolios, but the Prime Minister has, however, denied that a cabinet reshuffle is imminent. Now, Sharaad, this is not the first time that we've heard rumours of a cabinet reshuffle. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, there was one that was before Chinese New Year, and then once again during the one-year anniversary of May 9th.
Yeah, I think part of it, Melissa, is the democratic dividend that's been paid in terms of everybody feeling they have a reason to believe that they know who best would, sit in one of those seats in cabinet. So I think people have their favorite ministers, and they have their, ministers they think really should be given the bum's rush out of the door. At any rate, the prerogative is the Prime Minister's, and he's saying that they're going to perhaps, he's leaving it open for some sort of tweaking, but he's denied some important things. Like, he's denied that the former International Trade and Industry Minister, Tok Pa, under the Barisan National Government, is going to be joining cabinet. I think he said that. And he says there are going to be no new faces. So,
right. So, it got me thinking as to why cabinets are reshuffled, right? So why reshuffle ministers? Essentially just a way to refresh the cabinet lineup, especially often in the face of, I guess, perceptions of poor performance or poor polling numbers. But the interesting thing is the impact that rumours of a reshuffle has on on public sentiment. So it's not just the public that feels the impact of rumours of a reshuffle, but also the leadership. So ministers often feel like they are vulnerable in their position, like they have to turn to the media or they have to defend their portfolios and their performance.
And in fact, one of the stories that was circulating was that the DAP and Lim Guan Eng had given the Prime Minister suggestions about changes in portfolios. He's come out to deny that, and he's also reasserted that the DAP is happy with the ministers that they have, those individuals, plus the portfolios they have.
But, taking up your point, Sharaad, about, whether the public has their own kind of list of who they want to see in which portfolios. So what is it that we want a minister, to be in a portfolio? Do we want technocrats in specific portfolios? Do ministers need to have expertise in the ministry that they're running?
Well, technocratic governments are few and far between, I think.
Singapore has one, right?
Yes, but Singapore is not particularly democratic, I think it'd be fair to say, and they're largely insulated from political pressures. This government is put together by a coalition of political parties, and there are going to be some realities. The realities are, and many democratic countries have this, is that there's jostling. There's inter-party jostling, there's inter-party jostling, and this is part of the democratic game, right? But what we expect ministers to have is a clear sense of what they want to achieve, communicative skills, analytical skills, and a good civil service. A good civil service and a policy formulation, a backroom team that is actually informing them. That, I think, is essential for good governance.
All right. The other big story of the day has got to be what's happening at KLIA. So the situation has returned relatively normal now. This is after a massive disruption of KLIA's systems. Now, according to Malaysia Airport Holdings, which operates the airport there, as many as 20 flights scheduled to depart from KLIA were delayed this morning.
Yeah, again, people will make much hay, and especially rivals, or at least stakeholders who feel that the MHB haven't been giving them a fair shake. And I think no surprise that Tony Fernandes of AirAsia has kind of weighed in on this. And of course, if you're sitting there and stewing, in KLIA, you'll probably be very, very unhappy. But how often does this happen? And, and if it does happen, is a corrective measure, are corrective measures taken rather quickly, and in whether they learn from this? I think that's probably going to be the big lesson.
So what you're saying is that we need to calibrate our response to something like this. So
of course,
how often does this happen? To take it into a larger context, because you're right, Tony Fernandes's tweets were very critical towards the system's disruption. In fact, I think he tweeted, "What is Mavcom doing about this?" Because he's saying that the poor airport facilities, and they are supposed to be helping passengers given that there is a charge of RM1 levied to passengers. So he's critical, but there's the long kind of I guess beef, there's history between Malaysia airports as well as MEVCOM as well as AirAsia. So the question is, should we take this? Is this a one-off, or is this a systems disruption that is more systemic?
Yeah, we don't know, and I think we wait to see whether they communicate that and explain that to the general public. And communication is key, Melisa. And often in these situations, there are not enough people taking responsibility for communicating to the larger public and the individuals who are, or families who are there at the airport. In any kind of situation, I guess, the mark of dealing with a crisis is how do you manage it?
Right.
And, do you make people, it's unavoidable, the inconvenience, but do you make it something that they can bear, and they will, forever remember that you informed them of, when it was likely for things to be solved, and so on and so forth.
Well, you know what? We take for granted the, I guess, efficiency of travel operations, right? This is something that we expect to happen all the time, but the chaos that happens when there is disruption to travel operations is not just what you see, it's not just direct, disruption, but also the ripple effect, the intangible effects. Now, my question really is, what is the cost that these disruptions have? I mean, disruptions often are expensive operational problems, and who will be liable for the cost of travel delays, for compensation to passengers, So those are the top questions in my mind.
Right. I mean, people are just going for holidays. They also, schedule meetings and businesses conducted, across cities and so on and so forth. One might ask, what are the options for people, especially for cities and intercity commutes that are maybe quite close, right? So, for instance, if you're coming from Singapore, going from Kuala Lumpur to Singapore, what other options were there for you if your flight is delayed?
Yeah.
That's something, I guess, we need to answer in the long term. Right?
Well, we're going to keep a close eye on the developments of this story, but we're going to continue our look at the transportation theme after this with a closer look at the bike e-hailing scenario here in Malaysia. Stay tuned to consider this.